The UFC is headed to Des Moines, Iowa, and they have a bantamweight title eliminator with them. They also have a co-main event that may define the future of the middleweight division. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Des Moines fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings Fantasy Plays. But before I jump in, lately, I've been telling you to pause this video. Go see what our competitors are charging. Pause the video. Check out Roto Grinders. Pause the video. Check out SaberSim. But that is not the best etiquette to have on YouTube. So instead of you pausing and leaving, I'm going to show it to you. I went over to Roto Grinders, and here's their website. And then I went ahead and I said, let me see the monthly price for just MMA. And the monthly price for just MMA at Roto Grinders is $49.99, 5 times more money than we would ever dream of charging. That $50 will get you a DraftKings optimizer, some strategy, and interaction in their premium Discord for $50 a month. Well, don't fret. The boys at We Want Picks have an optimizer. This optimizer is preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projections on the planet, and this optimizer is one of many things included for just $10 a month. We also have an event simulator. But Angelo, isn't there another simulator out there called SaberSim? There sure is. And here's the SaberSim website. And if you select monthly, the lowest possible monthly plan to even think about using the SaberSim simulator is $100 a month. That is 10 times more money than we charge. 10 times more money. But we have an event simulator that does the exact same things. This event simulator will work not only for this fight card, but fight cards for the future. And if you're a little witty, and if you understand numbers and math and how a calendar works, you'll see that UFC 316 is more than a month away. So you could pay for this month, but do your research for next month. The We Want Picks Premium, I say over and over and over, is quite literally the greatest value in this space. And that is not an exaggeration. Not only are we far more affordable and have a more robust offering than the massive companies like Roto Grinders and SaberSim, we also blow out every weirdo with a Patreon that wants to scream into a microphone about how sharp they are. For $10 a month, you not only get bets and picks and tools, you also get a full suite of DraftKings fantasy tools like this event simulator. What this event simulator does is it will simulate every fight on this card 100,000 times. It's doing it right in front of your eyes, and what we're going to get back is a whole bunch of results off of those simulations. What it did behind the scenes was pull in historical DraftKings information, historical striking, historical grappling, and it simulated the fights. Now I can jump into the individual fighters, deep dive their stats, see how many takedowns Daniel Rodriguez was projected to get in these simulations, and then I can go ahead and build a DraftKings fantasy lineup off of that information. I mentioned we have the optimizer, but we're not here just catering to the top 10% that know how to use this stuff. We're here for you, the common man, the regular person, the person who may watch these videos for some entertainment, hears about DraftKings Fantasy and might want to dip their toes, but doesn't fully understand it. Well, we built the brand new beginner mode. The beginner mode is an industry-first TurboTax style optimizer. Instead of expecting you to understand the numbers and what ownership means and exposure, this will ask you a series of simple, easy questions that anybody can answer. First question will be, are there any fighters you absolutely do not want in your lineups? The next question will be, who are some underdogs that you like? Who are the favorites you're most confident in? A few questions later, the optimizer will build the lineups for you up to 150. Every single thing I just showed you, and 100 things I did not show you. It's available right now for $10, and that $10 is for an entire month. So not only will you get UFC Des Moines, you will get UFC 315 next week. You will get the UFC Fight Night with Gilbert Burns the week after that, and then the UFC Fight Night after that. It is quite literally the greatest value in this space. That's not an exaggeration. You could love me, you could hate me, but the value is undeniable. Go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top for $10. Unlock the world. I mean, if that wasn't a lightning rod of a pitch, I don't know what is. If you have seen these videos and you're on the fence and you've been skeptical and that didn't do it for you, I don't know what would. I literally showed you the competition. I literally showed you. And keep in mind, the competition is not Joey and his Patreon. not some random dude with some fake studio trying to be famous on YouTube and his Patreon. That's not what it is. That's not our competition. We have left those people in the dust years ago. Our competition are these massive companies, the greedy boys, charging $50 a month, charging $100 a month. That's the competition. And we're blowing them out too. There's a percentage of people that are going to never sign up, and totally fine. You don't need to buy anything. Just appreciate you watching. If you click the like button, even better. If you comment, even better. You share. I do believe the new statistic for YouTube is sharing a video. I think that trumps all as far as support is concerned. But anyway, there's a percentage of people that won't do any of the going to the website. There's a percentage of people that will go to the website just to check it out and leave. There's a percentage of people that will go to the website and stay there forever no matter what. I appreciate every last one of you. Genuinely. Thanks for being here. If you're even hearing this long rambling rant, that means you clicked on the video. So welcome to the fucking show. Let's go ahead and break down this card opening up the unbelievable UFC Des Moines fight card. I said that with some sarcasm, but this is actually a decent fight night. We have Ivana Petrovic taking on Juliana Miller. Ivana Petrovic should win this fight. I think she does win this fight. Juliana Miller kind of sucks as a fighter. But is Ivana Petrovic worth the money? Style-wise, she's going to come forward. Pretty well-rounded, but mostly a grappler. She's going to close the distance, look to get it to the ground. Heavy pressure if she does. If we take a look, she is 1-2 in the UFC. The Jamie Lynn Horth loss, quality loss. Luana Carolina was a decent loss as well. Smoking Liang Na, I mean, that's just a tale as old as time. You'll see she's gotten takedowns in all of these fights. She's had reversals, so even on the ground, if she's not the one on top, she can have some success. And she scores quite well. Let's say she got the decision over Jamie Lynn Horth. That would be 82 points, and that was on a 74-point salary. Last time, she was a solid favorite at $9,400. She got that win with a submission. She did lose to Luana Carolina in that UFC debut. Didn't score quite well there. But the reality is Ivana Petrovic does score pretty well, and it is because of the grappling. 9 minutes of control, 7 minutes of control, 4 minutes of control, and a loss. If we take a look at her opponent, who's not very good, but is scrappy, Juliana Miller, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get somebody who fights for your money, but you're not going to get somebody who's good at fighting for your money. Juliana's going to come forward. She'll swing. She'll try to make stuff happen. She just doesn't quite have the skills to succeed. I believe Juliana Miller loses this fight. I also believe she will have some moments of success. I don't think this is the thubbing that her last fight was against Luana Santos. I think Juliana Miller may have some success landing clean, and that's only going to force Ivana Petrovic to shoot earlier. Ivana wins. I think Ivana should be in the lineup. I don't see Juliana Miller winning. Obviously, she won the Ultimate Fighter with this win over Brogan Walker, but turns out Brogan Walker's not very good either. Then we have Thomas Petersen taking on DonTale Mayes. Thomas Petersen is a run-of-the-mill blue-collar guy. You go to his Instagram, and it's actually a bit concerning because the dude's still a union worker. And good for him, he should be. The UFC does not pay you enough money to not keep that job. The UFC doesn't pay you enough money to not have that full-time insurance. And a union job likely has a pension. So if I'm Thomas Petersen at this level in the UFC where I'm never going to be a world champion, not a big enough name to get those giant paydays, I'll have a couple wins, couple losses, and I'll probably end my career somewhere near 500. I'm not quitting that union job. Do not do it. He's chasing his dreams. Good for him. Keep the steady paycheck. Keep that pension. Nothing replaces a pension. Thomas Petersen, $8,900 because they're expecting him to come forward and get the takedowns because that's what he does. Striking's not great. The takedowns are decent. And they may be good enough here because he is fighting DonTale Mayes. DonTale Mayes is all punch, no takedown defense. He has offensive takedowns. He actually has 7 in his UFC career. And you can see it's a pretty long UFC career. He's fought a lot of great names. Andrei Arlovsky, Augusto Sakai before he absolutely sucked. Abdulrahwab, who got suspended. An Olympian got suspended for drugs. He beat Machado. That's a decent win, right? Lost to Gaziv, who turned into a wrestler. Lost to Walker. Not the best look in the world. And it's not the chinny Walker. It's the heel hook Walker. Actually, 2 times DonTale Mayes has been heel hooked. Listen, the reality is Thomas Petersen should win this fight. He should get the takedowns. He should get it done. Is he going to win by submission or TKO? I don't think so. I am going to fade Thomas Petersen price-wise because even if we go back and look at he doesn't score that well. He got the decision win over Usman. He had a couple of takedowns, and he only scored 77 points. Here he is at almost 9,000. I don't think he's going to score very well, even in what could be a boring win very similar to this one. We move our way up. We have Gaston Bolanos taking on Quang Lee. Gaston has the face and the name of a Disney prince. What he also has is a nasty spinning back elbow. He made a name for himself, both in MMA and in Muay Thai, for his spinning back elbow. A couple of finishes. He's a great striker. Great striker. There's some grappling holes, but he's not entirely useless, right? He's got a good high guard. He'll make you pay on the way in. So Gaston Bolanos, if you're standing up with him for a little too long, will make it known, and you could struggle having some success. Very good striker who can be very dangerous. He also has plenty of cardio. We haven't seen that finish win yet in the UFC, but there are plenty of finishes on his record. He's coming off that win over Cortavius Romeus, where he did score 80 points, and considering that there wasn't a finish there and that he's the striker, that was a decent outing from him. He has taken on Quang Lee. Quang Lee is winless in the UFC, just got knocked out by Long Zhao. Before that, he lost to Chris Gutierrez, where he had a couple of takedowns. Quang Lee is a striker. He also has a Muay Thai stance. He's got decent movement. He'll find the range with leg kicks, and he will work in a takedown or two. Overall, he's probably the more well-rounded of the two, but I do think the striking gap is far wider than the grappling gap. I think Gaston Bolanos puts on a show, and I don't think it's out of the question for Gaston to get to Quang Lee and to put him out. Gaston is going to be the pick. I will probably spend the money on a little bit of a flyer to get him in my DraftKings fantasy lineup. Then we have Gillian Robertson, and she is taking on Marina Rodriguez. This is a tricky one. Not a tricky one to break down, but a tricky one as far as pricing is concerned. Because Gillian Robertson is a very expensive $9,200. Gillian Robertson quite literally has the most amount of finish wins in the history of this division. I don't know if she'll finish Marina Rodriguez. And the other concerning thing is, while Gillian gets fights to the ground and dominates from there, her takedowns kind of suck. And if Marina Rodriguez is able to defend a bunch of them, there's going to be a problem because the striking gap is tremendously wide. Gillian Robertson is a phenomenal grappler. Her striking is not very good. But as you can see here, she is getting fights to the ground more often than she is not. Her last loss was Tabitha Ricci, who is also a phenomenal grappler. Outside of that, she's beating most of the strikers she's fought, except J.J. Aldrich, who's pretty well-rounded. And then before that, some pretty high-level fighters. And at this point, we're 4 and 5 years out. So let's focus on recently. Gillian Robertson can absolutely win this fight. I do think she does win this fight, but there is some life left in the 38-year-old Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez is a very good striker. She gets her hands going. She gets her kicks going. She still has some very real power. We watched her beat the fucking piss out of Michelle Waterson against the cage. Obviously, Jessica Andrade was able to get it done by bullying her. The Lucindo loss was not great. It was a split decision loss to Eisman Lucindo, but Lucindo was able to get a couple of takedowns, and that ultimately was the difference. Eisman's definitely bigger and stronger than Gillian Robertson, but not as good of a grappler. I'm going to pick Gillian. I'm going to throw her in my lineup, and we're going to cross our fingers, hope to die, that Gillian Robertson gets another finish. But even if she doesn't, hopefully there's enough takedowns and enough control time that she's going to rack up some very real points. Then we have Azamat Bekoev taking on Ryan Loder. Another tricky situation because Azamat Bekoev is relatively untested. We only have the one fight in the UFC. It was short notice, and it was against very big, strong, heavy-handed, decent jiu-jitsu guy, Zach Reese, and he beat the shit out of him. Beat the shit out of him. Just absolutely sparked that dude. Wasn't close for a second. It was an incredible UFC debut, and he did that back in January. So this gentleman who showed up on short notice making his UFC debut, who beat a pretty good, not an amazing, but a pretty good, relatively early in his career UFC guy. Impressive. Azamat Bekoev is a very good wrestler who has very heavy hands. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he has incredible power. And he brings that incredible power everywhere. He'll use it in his takedowns. He'll use it in his striking. Everything he does is big and hurts. He's taking on Ryan Loder. What makes this fight tricky is Azamat Bekoev, as I mentioned, heavy-handed, good wrestler. Ryan Loder is a very good wrestler. He's a Division I wrestler. He's wrestled his entire life. I believe he's a Division I All-American. So Ryan Loder is a guy who's very familiar with wrestling and takedown offense and takedown defense. Ryan Loder's a guy that we haven't quite seen get wrestled. We've seen him do the wrestling. We haven't seen him get wrestled. So I don't know what that will look like here if Azamat is the one shooting. What I do know, though, is that Ryan Loder is very patient, very low volume. He doesn't commit to the striking. He backs up. He waits. He'll take a shot when you commit to the striking. He just had a wild back and forth with Robert Valentine, who he was able to finish in the second round, but not without its adversity. At one point, Robert had Ryan's back, was choking him, and it got real dicey there, and that's because Ryan, as I mentioned, is pretty cautious, and Robert is dangerous and doesn't give a shit. Ultimately, he paid that price. I think Azamat is going to be the better striker. He's either the same or almost the same as far as wrestling credentials are concerned. So I'm going to take the better striker who can also wrestle in Azamat, and I think he might be able to find a finish based off of how dangerous he has looked previously. Then we have Miesha Tate taking on Yana Santos in the featured prelim of the evening. Listen, Miesha Tate, anything I say won't do enough credit for her resume. Okay, Miesha Tate, in all sincerity, is one of the best, at least in her generation. This sport is quickly evolving, especially in the women's division. I would say skill-wise, the women's division is a couple years behind the men's. And that's because, frankly, the women's division didn't even exist for 20 years of this sport. So with the women's division being behind the men's and Miesha Tate being that first generation of female fighters for any notoriety in the UFC, she did incredibly well. She's the former bantamweight champion of the world. She fought all the bests, literally all the best. I don't know Maxwell, I don't know Kaufman, Frosta, Wakana, Kujay. Okay, Conan, very good striker. Ronda Rousey, one of the best to ever do it. Judy Kedzie, Kat Zingano, Ronda Rousey again, Liz Carmouche. Don't remember who Nickal is. Olympic silver medalist. Jessica Ai. Holly Holm, former world champion. Amanda Nunes, the best to ever do it. Raquel Pennington, former champion. Marion Renault, the first ever champion. And then things really have started to go off the rails after long layoff and a lot of stuff going on here. Lost to Ketlin, lost to Murphy, beat Julia Avila, and now here she is coming back a year and a half later. The reality is Miesha Tate has accomplished everything. The other reality is her skills have not been improving. While she fought some of the best to do it, and she beat some of the best to do it, and she was at one point in time the best, her skills haven't evolved with the rest of the sport. She's a decent wrestler with less than decent striking. And that's the reality of it. She's incredibly tough. She's been in there. She's done it all. But I don't know how much success she's going to have. And she does have a very winnable matchup here. She's fighting Yana Santos. She's not fighting one of the young up-and-coming killers. If she was fighting Norma Dumont should be a 900 favorite. But she's not. She's fighting an aging vet also in Yana Santos. A pretty one-dimensional fighter in Yana Santos. Yana Santos is a kickboxer known as Yana Kunitskaya before she married Thiago Santos. And that's it. She's a very good kickboxer, doesn't have a ton of power, but she does have good volume. She does have great technique, and she's got good footwork. So I'll take the Yana Santos side here. I think Yana can keep her feet moving, can stay busy enough to not be planted and get taken down, and also get her hands going to potentially steal a decision when she's dotting up Miesha's face and defending takedowns. As far as DraftKings fantasy pricing is concerned, she's somewhat affordable at $7,600, but even in these wins, she's not scoring a ton. She just beat the shit out of Chelsea Chandler. Beat the shit out of her. Had a knockdown and everything, and only scored 88 points. So even if she has an incredible performance like she did in her last fight, I don't imagine she'll score that well. I'm very on the fence because there is a 7 in front of that price tag, but I'm very on the fence. I'm going to pick Yana Santos to win. I think she's just going to be better. At this point in their careers, she's going to be better. Last important note here, after she beat the piss out of Chelsea Chandler, on the microphone in the interview, she said, my last couple of fight camps, and you can see here, Hosa, home, probably not the Aldana one. My last couple of fight camps, I've been breastfeeding. And it took a lot out of me, and I was waking up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't really train, and all the things. And she said, that's why I look so good in this camp and not as good in the camps before that. So do with that what you will. Yana Santos is going to be my pick. I will probably leave the DraftKings part of it up to the event simulator, up to the optimizer, and I'll let that decide how much exposure I should have to Yana in my lineups. Then we have the main card opener. We have Mason Jones coming back to the UFC to fight Jeremy Stephens, who is also coming back to the UFC. I think Mason Jones dominates here. Mason Jones will probably be in my lineup, but not because of his striking acumen, because of the grappling. You'll see here, 8 takedowns against Onama. He had 2 takedowns in a no decision against Jean-Patrick, 1 takedown against Davis, no takedowns against Ludovic Klein, but Ludovic Klein is incredibly good. Mason Jones was a kid, that pretty decent prospect, had an okay career in the UFC, and then ultimately left. He got 3 wins on the regional scene, and now he's back. My concern with him is he can be hittable. He'll move forward. He's fast. He's busy. Good striking. Very good takedown defense at 80%. If he is taken down, he gets up. And he's got good offensive takedowns, as I mentioned, that you can see here. Mason Jones is a good fighter. He's a young prospect. And I love that he was cut by the UFC and then has worked his way back. Look at Youssef Zalal. What happened to him? He left, he came back. The 2.0 version is next level. He's taking on Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens, I could scroll for 20 minutes and still not get to the bottom of this resume. He is a staple in the UFC. I'm going to speed it up. He started his UFC career in 2007. 2007, that is 18 years ago. 18 years ago, he started his UFC career. And along the way, he has fought some really big names. He's got some good wins. He's got a bunch of losses. And it's really been an up and down career. The end of it, however, was only down. He lost 5 fights in a row. They ultimately cut him. And after they cut him, he went to the PFL. You would think he'd have success there. He did not. He had 1 win and 2 losses. Then he went to BKFC, and in bare knuckle, he has had quite a bit of success. Jeremy Stephens is exactly that. He's built for bare knuckle. He's tough as shit. He'll bomb away. He'll take a beating. Takedown defense, not great. Offensive takedowns, doesn't exist. So now we're going to get a guy that's been coming off 3 different bare knuckle boxing fights, coming back into the UFC only because it's his hometown, fighting against a young up-and-comer who proved himself in the regional scene, who can wrestle. Mason Jones is probably going to slug it out for a minute or two, realize this isn't a good idea, get the takedowns, potentially find a finish. And if he doesn't find a finish, he'll still get a bunch of takedowns, score a bunch of points. Mason Jones is the pick. Then we have Serhiy Sidey and Cameron Smotherman. Listen, I don't like Serhiy Sidey. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like the way he fights. His entire fight game is built around being tall. That's it. Hey, I'm tall, so I'm going to fight like that. No real discernible skills, just tall. He uses the length well on the ground. He'll do all the long guy stuff, look for a darce, throw a triangle out of nowhere, using those long limbs. But when it comes to the striking, he's very hittable. He does not manage range that well. He will pump a jab. He'll try to throw big. There's some power in there for sure, but he gets hit. And you can get inside of the range, inside of that long reach. He's coming off this win over Garrett Armfield, which was in fact not a win. He didn't win this fight. He was taken down. He was outlanded in the strikes. He didn't win that fight. And I don't think he's going to win this current fight. He's fighting Cameron Smotherman. Cameron Smotherman came into the UFC, made his UFC debut against Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley's not a nobody. He's not a somebody, but he's not a nobody. And Cameron Smotherman came in here and won this fight. They took a point away because Jacob was cage side yelling, take a point. You already warned him because of an eye poke. But even with that point not being taken away, Cameron Smotherman would have won this fight. He dominated that fight, was a cleaner, faster, better striker. And I think this exact fight here, he will be the cleaner, faster, better striker. Problem is, DraftKings Fantasy doesn't give a shit about your striking. If you're not knocking somebody down, if you're not finishing somebody, if you're not getting takedowns, you don't score shit. 69 points. And you know what? Off a $6,700 salary, that made some sense. But 69 points in a very good win. Not worth it here at $7,800, although I do think Cameron Smotherman wins this fight. Then we have Montel Jackson, and he is taking on a very interesting Daniel Marcos. And I'm going to say interesting, but we'll get to him in a second. We'll start with Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson has been known recently for the power. Smoked Yaya, smoked Damon Blackshear, who just fought a few weeks ago and looked pretty good. Montel Jackson has a ton of power. And we talk about the power, and people love the power. But he actually is a high-level wrestler. At one point in time, he was at the UFC, or not the UFC, the Olympic Training Center, hoping to achieve some of those dreams. The reality is it wasn't quite good enough, but good enough to get the invite, not good enough to stick around. Montel Jackson's a very good wrestler, but he doesn't use the wrestling. He's abandoned the wrestling. He hasn't had a takedown since 2021. Almost 4 years ago was his last takedown against JP Bays, who is no longer in the UFC. Who has Montel Jackson beat? Damon Blackshear, that is a quality win. Yaya, not that big of a deal. Julio Arce, not a big deal. JP Bays, he's gone. Jesse Strider, gone. Lost to Johns. Kalaris, Andre Sukmath, for about 4 minutes, people thought he was good. Brian Kelleher lost to Ricky Simone. Anybody good that Montel Jackson fought, he lost to. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Montel Jackson. He's got the power in his hands. He's got the high-level wrestling. And he's got the win streak. It's not his fault. He's getting these matchups. He gets paid the same if they're good or if they're bad. So for him to get the wins, congratulations. I'm only bringing it up because I'm about to pick the other side. I think Daniel Marcos wins. I called him interesting, though, because he can have questionable chin. I'm not going to say he's chinny, but it is quite. Yanya's had a couple of moments in that fight where like, oh shit, he's going to get it done. Ultimately, Daniel Marcos pulled it off. It was a little closer than a lot of people thought it was going to be. Daniel Marcos had to get a couple of takedowns. Daniel Marcos is a busy striker. He's a good striker. He's effective. He's got power. He's got accuracy. He does a good job stringing together combinations, never just one punch at a time. He'll make it all work. He'll even do some crazy stuff like flying knees, spinning elbows. His takedown defense is very good at 88%. He's got 8 knockouts, 9 decisions, so we know he can finish. We know he can go to a decision. I think Daniel Marcos weathers an early storm and makes something happen late. And because he is so affordable, I will probably have him in my lineup. Here's my theory. Montel Jackson has been doing such a good job knocking people out that he's going to be looking to get a knockout here. And if he's looking for a knockout, he's not going to find it. He'll slow down. The sting will be gone off those punches, and Daniel Marcos will take over. I think Daniel Marcos can get this done, and I'm going to argue he fought the higher level of competition. Yanez is better than half the people that we saw Montel Jackson fight. Castaneda, better than half of them. Richie Lang's not terrible, not awful. There was a wild nut shot in the mix. David Grant kind of sucks, but continues to get good fights. Like, Daniel Marcos has been here. He's been doing some things, making it happen. I think he gets this done. Then we have Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Santiago Ponzinibbio just got a spectacular win at UFC Vegas 101 in January. I was there live and in person. And while you look at this, and you're going to be like, wow, we got a knockout. And then you watch the highlight, and it was an incredible knockout. He stiffened that dude. Carlston Harris was out for a long time, to the point where in the arena we were like, oh shit, are they going to shovel his body out of here? Like, what the fuck's going on? Ultimately, it ended up being fine for Carlston, or at least short-term fine. Santiago Ponzinibbio is a busy striker. We did see some power in that fight, but he's not typically one-punch power, right? He's kind of volume. He's got some decent speed. But what you may be forgetting about that fight is Santiago was almost knocked out, and he was getting lit up like a Christmas tree. And then he found that big, wild looping shot. Santiago's fun. He's a gamer. He's not soft, but he's also not great. I think that Daniel Rodriguez might be able to get this done. Daniel Rodriguez is a good boxer. There's not really much else. You're not going to see a lot of kicks out of him. You're not going to see really a ton of takedowns. He did just take down Alex Morono, and if we scroll down, you'll see the last time he got a takedown was 5 years ago. 5 years ago against Bobby Green, which is insane. Daniel Rodriguez, not Bobby Green, what the hell's his name? Maurice Green. Daniel Rodriguez, good boxer. And I think that's all he's going to need to be here. Ponzinibbio doesn't shoot takedowns, so it's going to be striker for striker. Ponzinibbio doesn't typically have one-punch knockout power. He just knocked out a 4-year-old after almost being knocked out. I think D-Rod will be a little faster, a little cleaner. I also think it's going to be a weird, close fight, kind of sloppy. Good back and forth. I think Daniel Rodriguez gets it done. Problem is, it's tricky with his scoring, because when he beat Jing Lang, he only scored 65 points. Most recently, when he beat Alex Morono, it was a split. Lost the first round, won the next 2, in my opinion. He only scored 86 points. 86 points does cover the $8,000 salary, but there's not a lot of room for error there. I think Daniel Rodriguez gets it done, and you can choose if you want him in your lineup or not. Co-main event is the most interesting fight on this card to me. This is by far the most interesting fight on this card. Bo Nickal has been running through people. And even though he didn't finish Paul Craig, he ran through him. That fight, at no point was Paul Craig in any control. And the entire fight was Bo Nickal experimenting with his hands. And not experimenting with his hands like you experiment with your body, experimenting with his hands. How good is my boxing? Let me test it against a guy who's not very dangerous. This way, if something comes back I don't like, I'll just go to the wrestling. I'm not going to get knocked out. And he did fine. He absolutely lit up Paul Craig. It was very clear, like, all right, Bo Nickal can strike too. Was it razzle-dazzle? No. Did it suck? Also, no. Bo Nickal, as we all know, Division I All-American wrestler, Division I national champion wrestler. Couple of world championships in the mix as well. Not quite Olympic, but world. So, Bo Nickal, very high-level wrestler, is evolving. He's at a very good fight camp in American Top Team, and we have seen other skills. But the reason this is tricky And you can see here, he's the most affordable he's ever been. He's $9,100. Previously, $98, $95, $98, $96. This is a little tricky, though, because he's fighting Reinier de Roder. Reinier de Roder is a 2-division world champion out of ONE FC. He was the light heavyweight champion and the middleweight champion. Dude's big as shit at 6'6". He's jacked. His striking's not very good, but it's there. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. Is the takedown and takedown defense good? Kind of untested. Took down Kevin Holland, but who can't? Took down Jared Mearshart, but who can't? So weird sort of barometer that we're working with here because I don't quite know how good the takedowns are. What I will say is I do think Bo Nickal wins. And you know what? This is the most affordable Bo Nickal has ever been. Maybe the most affordable he'll ever be. So if you're on the Bo Nickal side, throw him in your lineup. But what I will say is Reinier de Roder has unbelievable jiu-jitsu. And it's not an insane world that Bo Nickal tries to do the same striking matchup that he had last fight with Paul Craig. And Reinier, who's tall and big and definitely a better striker than Paul Craig, lands clean a few times and Bo says, fuck it, I'm wrestling. And then he shoots a couple of takedowns. And then all of a sudden, Reinier is sweeping, ends up on top. Weird jiu-jitsu scrambles. That's not crazy. It's also not crazy if Reinier shoots a takedown and gets it. Bo Nickal is by far, without question, the better, more accomplished wrestler. But this is a fight in a cage. You could set up a takedown with a wild punch. It's not quite the same as an open mat, slap hands, let's wrestle. So I am on the Bo Nickal side. I'm relatively nervous, honestly. Like, I think Bo Nickal's going to get it done. I want him to get it done. It's better for the division if he gets it done. But he's, there's a lot of questions here, and they will be answered. Not sure how confident you all are, but I'm a little on the fence. And then we have the main event. Corey Sandhagen dominates the shit out of Deiveson Figueiredo. I don't think this fight is close at all. Corey Sandhagen will be in my lineup at $9,400. I think he's the better fighter quite literally everywhere. He's bigger, longer, faster, younger. Stronger, cleaner technique. I think Corey Sandhagen is literally better everywhere except raw power. Deiveson Figueiredo will bomb raw power. Corey Sandhagen historically scores pretty well. He Nurmagomedov'd his way to the win over Rob Font to score 134 points, 120 points against Vera, 97 against Yadong. Obviously, he lost to Petr Yan, but now, okay, former world champion, TJ Dillashaw, former world champion. A lot of people thought Corey Sandhagen won this Dillashaw fight. So all of a sudden, we have Corey Sandhagen, who's in a fight not against a world champion or a title count challenger. I think he's going to absolutely smoke here. And obviously, Deiveson Figueiredo is a former world champion, but not at this weight class, at the weight class below this. He had to move up 10 pounds because he was struggling with the weight, and it was showing in his performances. Brandon Moreno finished him. Twice. The first time was a fluke. The second time was definitely Figgy just kind of giving up, exhausted from the weight cuts. He moves up in weight, and he's having a ton of success. He out-grappled Garbrandt. He out-grappled Vera. And he tried to out-grapple Petr Yan, but Petr Yan's hands are just too good. Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be in a situation where he's just biting down, winging punches like a windmill. And that's the success he's going to have. I don't see him getting takedowns. I don't see him landing clean. I think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to get outworked. I think he's going to get beat up. The pick, the DraftKings play, all of it, Corey Sandhagen. Guys, that's the breakdown. Sincerely, thank you for the watch. And also, if you give a shit about making a couple of bucks on the weekend, if you give a shit about supporting us, if you give a shit about making a winning DraftKings fantasy lineup, we have the literal best tools on the planet at this price point. It's $10 a month. You're going to get the event simulator. You're going to get the DraftKings optimizer. You're going to get the slate sleuth. You're going to get the postmortem. You're going to get all the other tools for bets. You're going to get the artificial intelligence. And if we compare the pricing, $50 on Roto Grinders for less than what I'm offering. $100 on SaberSim for less than I'm offering. It's $10 a month because we actually respect our viewers. We've given them the best DraftKings ownership on the planet. It's $10 a month for everything you ever needed. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. Good luck this weekend.